Let me ask you something. Have you ever left work completely exhausted? Not because the work itself was hard, but because everything felt heavy? A comment from your manager stayed in your head all night. A tense meeting made your chest tight. You replayed an email 10 times, wondering if you sounded wrong. And meanwhile, everyone else seems to just log off, go home, eat dinner, sleep. And you're sitting there thinking, why does work affect me this much? Why do I feel everything so deeply? Is something wrong with me? Maybe you've even told yourself, I'm too sensitive. I should toughen up. I'm not built for the corporate world. Here's the misconception I want to gently challenge today. Feeling too much at work is not a character flaw. It's not weakness, and it's not immaturity. It's information. In this video, we're going to unpack why your nervous system reacts the way it does at work, what it says about your emotional wiring, and, most importantly, how to work with it instead of constantly fighting yourself. Not surface-level advice, not just don't care, but real psychological insight grounded in neuroscience and emotional intelligence. If you've ever felt misunderstood, overstimulated, or emotionally drained by work environments that seem normal to everyone else, this video is for you. Take a breath. You're not broken. Let's talk about what's actually happening. Let's start with a reframe that changes everything. You don't feel too much because you're dramatic. You feel too much because your system receives more information. Think of it like this. Some people walk through work with emotional noise-canceling headphones on. They still hear things, but a lot gets filtered out automatically. You're walking around with a high-definition microphone. You notice tone shifts, micro-expressions, unspoken tension, the emotional undercurrent of a room, not because you're trying to, but because your brain is wired to. Psychologically speaking, this often shows up in people with high emotional sensitivity, high empathy, strong social attunement, deep processing tendencies, or a highly responsive nervous system. And here's the key insight. Depth of processing plus social environments equals emotional overload. Workplaces are social ecosystems. They're full of hierarchy, power dynamics, ambiguity, and unspoken rules. If your mind is built to track emotional meaning, that environment is loud. Let's slow this down and get concrete. The nervous system 101, without the jargon. Your nervous system has one core job: keep you safe, not just from physical danger, but from social danger. And your brain does not distinguish very well between a lion chasing you and a manager looking disappointed. Both can trigger the same internal alarm, especially if you're emotionally sensitive. The amygdala, your internal smoke detector. Deep in your brain is a structure called the amygdala. Think of it as a smoke detector. Its job is not to be accurate. Its job is to be fast. If it detects a possible threat, criticism, exclusion, unpredictability, it sends a signal. Pay attention. This matters. For emotionally intense people, that smoke detector is extra sensitive. It goes off at a sharp tone, a vague email, silence where reassurance used to be unclear expectations, not because you're fragile, but because your system evolved to detect nuance. The downside? Your body reacts before your logic catches up. Heart rate increases, muscles tense, thoughts spiral. Suddenly, work feels personal, even when it's not meant to be. Here's why work hits harder than other parts of life. 1. Work combines survival plus belonging. At work, two primal needs overlap. Survival, income, stability, security. Belonging, approval, respect, inclusion. That combination is neurologically intense. Your brain interprets workplace feedback as, do I still belong here? Am I safe? Am I valued? For emotionally wired people, those questions don't stay abstract. They feel visceral. 2. Ambiguity is emotionally expensive. Many workplaces run on unspoken expectations. No clear feedback, no clear standards, just vibes. And emotionally sensitive minds hate ambiguity. Not because you're controlling, but because ambiguity forces your brain to fill in the gaps. And when you're emotionally attuned, those gaps get filled with self-doubt, overanalysis, emotional forecasting. You're constantly asking, what did that mean? Did I mess up? Are they upset? That's exhausting. Let's talk about internalization. Internalizers versus externalizers. Psychologists often describe two broad coping styles. Externalizers discharge emotion outward, anger, blame, detachment. Internalizers process emotion inward, reflection, self-questioning. If you feel too much at work, you're likely an internalizer. You don't immediately lash out. You turn the experience inward. You ask, what does this say about me? What did I do wrong? How can I improve? That can be a strength. It creates growth. But without boundaries, it turns into emotional overload. Let's be honest about the cost. When emotionally intense people try to just push through, work, without adapting, they often experience chronic burnout, emotional numbness, anxiety, or depression, loss of motivation, identity confusion. Why can't I do what everyone else does? You might even start disconnecting from yourself to survive. And that's the tragedy. Because the same wiring that makes work painful is also the wiring that makes you insightful, ethical, creative, intuitive, deeply human. The goal is not to blunt your sensitivity. The goal is to contain it. Let's get practical. These are not be less sensitive tips. These are regulation and containment strategies. Instead of asking, why do I feel this? Try asking, is this emotion mine, or did I pick it up? Emotionally wired, people absorb atmosphere like sponges. Practice mentally labeling. This is their stress. This belongs to the system, not to me. I'm noticing emotion, not causing it. You don't need to reject empathy. Just redirect responsibility. You can't think your way out of nervous system activation. When your body is activated, logic comes second. Try this micro reset at work. Drop your shoulders. Exhale longer than you inhale. Press your feet gently into the floor. This tells your nervous system, I'm not in danger. Do this before analyzing the situation. Emotionally intense people reflect endlessly, especially after work. Create a container. For example, I'll think about this for 20 minutes. Then I stop. Write it down. Externalize it. Your mind doesn't need to carry everything alone. Professionalism does not mean emotional suppression. It means emotional management. You're allowed to care. You're allowed to feel. You're just not required to bleed internally for every interaction. A quick note. If you experience extreme anxiety, panic attacks, trauma responses, ADHD-related emotional dysregulation, then some of this may be amplified. That doesn't invalidate you. It just means support matters. Therapy, coaching, or nervous system-informed tools can be life-changing. This video is education, not diagnosis. Let me say this clearly. If you feel too much at work, you are not weak. You are not broken. You are not bad at life. You are operating with a high-resolution emotional system in environments designed for low-resolution processing. That mismatch hurts. But it also means you bring depth where others bring detachment. And when you learn to regulate, not suppress, your sensitivity becomes wisdom. Let's recap. You feel too much at work because your nervous system is highly responsive. Your brain processes emotional meaning deeply. Work environments activate survival plus belonging. You internalize rather than discharge emotion. None of that is a flaw. The work is learning what's yours, what's not, and how to stay present without self-erasure. You don't need to become less you. You need to become more skillful with how you're wired. And that's learnable. Thanks for being here.